Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world.
Welcome back to Moose on the Loose. My name's David, and today's top stories, we've got the WEF. You're not going to believe this. The WEF is pushing forward on taxes on air and water. They have a plan here for a water tax, potentially an air tax. These guys, this stuff is getting pretty funny. There's a lot of Fruit Loops over on the WF. So we got that among some other stories. Let's jump into this. This top story here, we've got the WF who wants to put a tax on everything: the air you breathe, the water you drink. They have completely lost their marbles. So we've got a couple of clips to look at. First, we'll check this one out.
That we cannot let perfection be the enemy of good, right? Accounting standards took 150 years. I hope integrating natural capital into our accounting frameworks is not going to take another 100, because we don't have 100 years. In fact, I'm not even sure we have 10 years to wait, right? So we need to keep pushing while continuing to refine and enhance. And the best example I can give is carbon pricing. So today, carbon pricing, ETSs, carbon taxes already cover about 25% of global emissions, right? We should actually look at scaling this, right, to cover all 100% of carbon emissions. And beyond carbon, let's think about other aspects of nature that are easier to quantify. We probably will not be able to quantify everything on day one, but what about water, right? That's also quite possible for us to start integrating systematically into current trading carbon pricing mechanisms.
Carbon tax on water, folks, because you have to pay a tax to drink water. If this comes down, I'm just going to go live in the bush. I'll just get a Starlink and check out. I'll drink all the water I want from fresh, beautiful alpine lakes and not be a part of any of this. And the nonsense continues here with this second clip.
We know that every aspect of every part of the economy is fundamentally dependent on nature, as you highlighted. The air that we breathe, the water we drink, the soil, the oceans that we need for the food that we need to consume, the minerals that we need as inputs to technology and to infrastructure. And without these forms of value, these forms of natural capital, we won't have economies. They are the fundamental building blocks of our economies. But the ways, as you said, the ways in which we have grown our economies, our models of economic development, have been incredibly successful for global prosperity. But the unintended consequences of current models of growth are simply not sustainable on a finite planet. The amount of resource that we are drawing into our economies, Earth's resources, and the amount of pollution and waste that we're pumping out, whether that's through greenhouse gas emissions, whether that's sewage into our water, whether it's plastics into the ocean, is beyond the Earth's carrying capacity. And we know that that's leading, as you said, to very significant direct impacts for society, but very significant financial costs for the economy. You can look at that as you have and calculate that at a macro level. But the way that that's showing up as we're breaching these boundaries and breaching these limits and undermining nature is showing up in very practical ways that are showing up for financial risk for institutions. Lack of water is leading to disruption of operations, of supply chains where water is needed as an essential input for manufacturing or power production. The degradation of soil is leading to reduced agricultural yields. The decline of pollinator species is also having an impact on agriculture. So that's leading to direct financial risks for organizations, for businesses, and ultimately for investors.
Yeah, I mean, it almost seems like she's alluding to soil tax, air tax, water tax. More taxes, folks, because apparently we're all a problem on this planet. We are burdening this planet, so might as well tax us until we don't exist. This organization needs to be shut down. That's all I have to say. WW3 will not be between nations. Ooh, that comment. The World Economic Forum is full of evil and vile people. They have to be stamped out. Doom and gloom sell. Yep, they're selling more doom and gloom. Pompous, arrogant imbecile, what a pack of self-aggrandizing, self-appointed, morally challenged, so-called masterminds. They call us useless eaters while they produce nothing but misery as they sit back and suck up resources planning our destruction. Dude, this is savage. These nerds think they're gods. This organization is rogue and needs to be dismantled. Now, we all know Justin Trudeau's master, the WEF, are super woke. They've got this big plan, the Great Reset, as it says here. They've got this whole agenda. And we've got Australian Senator Malcolm Roberts, who absolutely rips into the WEF here.
When the World Economic Forum launched their social media campaign in 2018 carrying the slogan, "You'll own nothing and be happy," I thought, finally, the predatory billionaires who try to run the world had shown their hand. The public can finally see their fate if the World Economic Forum are allowed to succeed. That didn't happen. The media, who have the same owners as the World Economic Forum, persisted with calling the World Economic Forum's evil agenda a conspiracy theory. Even in this place, there are only a handful of senators with the courage to call out the agenda for what it is: economic exploitation and social control. Over the break, the World Economic Forum revealed another aspect of their plan when they launched a campaign against laundry. Yes, really, laundry. Jeans should not be washed more than once a month. Most other clothes once a week. You will wear dirty clothes and be smelly, apparently, and happy. The temptation is to laugh at their desire to control even mundane aspects of our lives, yet the truth is much more frightening than that. The World Economic Forum have now turned their evil agenda to food. The campaign against farming is really a campaign against one of the necessities of life: food. Predatory billionaires, parasitic billionaires, owning near-urban intensive production facilities, producing food-like substances for the masses, forcing the public into acceptance to the World Economic Forum's fake global warming scam. These are their own stated motives: control food, control people. Who controls the food supply controls the people. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world. The World Economic Forum and the predatory billionaires they represent are currently trying to do all three. Three. Who controls the energy can control whole continents. Who controls money can control the world.
Money, food, and energy. Yeah, that's it. That's right on the mark there. So you throw in a tax on soil and air and water. The WEF, I mean, these self-appointed losers, they don't run the world. They're not the world government. They like to think they are, but they're not. Klaus Schwab being their master, he's getting too old. Their young global leaders like Justin Trudeau are failing all across the world right now. This organization will see its demise sooner than later. Now, one thing to note that he just talked about there is the media being controlled. You know, they have a narrative. Somebody made this edit here on this video, which is incredible. Now, this isn't America, but it just goes to tell you and show you how much of the media is paid off. Like, they literally give them scripts to say, to deliver the message. And I don't think they ever anticipated someone to cut what they did here, went through all the news stations and they cut these segments out and they overlap them. And this is shocking. As it says here, anytime someone says that you're crazy for thinking the media is trying to manipulate us, show them this.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think, and this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is the reason why you guys watch someone like me. You're not watching the CBC, CTV, all those guys because of stuff like this. This is so corrupt. They're all sitting there with a giant script on their teleprompter and they're reading off the exact same thing. The cadence in their speech almost lined up exactly to when they said all this. This is nuts. You want to talk about paid off media? This is it, folks. It's all one big script. It's all one big narrative. All one big way to rig elections and enslave the minds of the sheep. The media is the enemy of the people for precisely this reason. Legacy media is scarier than a haunted house on Halloween. Truly horrifying and dreadful. It is. That's not honest news if you have everyone reading the same script. Mainstream media has never told the truth. Next up, we got this clip here of the WEF talking about saving the planet by stopping drinking coffee, because coffee is the problem, right? It's coffee.
We'll be having our coffee before the session, and you raised the coffee example. I'd love just to give you the chance to expand on that.
Basically, the coffee that we all drink emits between 15 and 20 tons of CO2 per ton of coffee. So we should all know that this is every time we drink coffee, we are basically putting CO2 into the atmosphere. One of the reasons is because most of the coffee plantation, or most of the coffee is produced through monoculture. And monoculture is also affected by climate change. The quality of these nature assets is deteriorating quite rapidly.
This guy's drinking a coffee before this and then brings up coffee as it's the problem. It's funny. They're in it too. They'd have no problem creating the problem, but then they're calling out the problem. It's all our fault, right? These guys can have their coffee. What a bunch of hypocrisy. Earth's atmosphere, climate crisis is a fraud. What do we got here? Carbon dioxide. Yeah. You hear Elon Musk talk about this a lot. The majority of what we breathe in air and oxygen is actually nitrogen. First it was cows, now it was plants. So basically the whole planet has to go. And just how much coffee is served at each of these meetings. I'd bet it's not cheap stuff either. When the WF starts practicing things that they want to foist to the rest of us, maybe they can be taken seriously. Until then, no, exactly. They can't be sitting there drinking coffee and then telling the rest of the world to not drink coffee. What a ridiculous statement. No coffee, no meat, no fertilizers, no children, no gas. I guess they're simply saying to us they want all of us, but the select few, to cease to exist so the elite plus a select group of submissive working class people may remain as the master class. Wonder how he got to the conference. Bike? Wonder how his wardrobe is maintained, hand washed, air dried. Wonder what his menu is like. Insects? Wonder how big his home is. Less than 2,000 square feet. Exactly. All these WF guys are complete hypocrites. The entire climate agenda is a fraud, corruption and fake science. It's political and financial operation. Achieving net zero CO2 was result in all life on Earth being extinguished. We got a reply video down here, which is interesting.
A lot of this environmental question depends on, I think, a very flawed fundamental presupposition. It depends on the idea that carbon dioxide is pollution. And I would argue, after interviewing hundreds of scientists, including many who've worked for the UN IPCC, many of the leading scientists in the world, that the notion that CO2 is pollution is absolutely preposterous. We exhale about 2 pounds of it every single day. The proportion of greenhouse gases made up of human CO2 emissions is a fraction of 1%. The idea that that is going to destroy the planet or change the temperature of the Earth is, frankly, in my opinion, totally ludicrous. But from a totalitarian perspective, if you can convince people that CO2 is pollution, there's no human activity that doesn't result in CO2 emissions, including living, including dying, turning on a light switch. Every single aspect of your life then, if we submit to the idea that CO2 is pollution, then comes under the regulatory control of the people who claim to be saving us from pollution. So when they do these environmental studies and they say, well, your CO2 footprint will be smaller if you eat bugs or you do this, that, or the other, you drive an electric car, that doesn't show anything about whether that's going to benefit the environment or not. In fact, CO2 has actually been very beneficial for the environment. In interviewing Trump's climate advisor, Dr. William Happer, a physics professor at Princeton University, he said the Earth is starving for more CO2. And since we've had a little bit of an increase in atmospheric CO2 over the last 100 years or so, plants have gotten much greener, agricultural yields have improved. So I think we need to also talk about the fundamental presupposition here. Is CO2 really pollution? If it's not, then all these alleged environmental benefits are completely fictional.
Something to think about there, folks. Next up here, we've got a carjacking. This is nuts. It says basically there's a brazen carjacking here in Toronto. Police almost immediately identify suspect as Gyani Zail Singh Sidhu. No fixed address. The most important thing to note here, it says he literally went from a bail hearing to a carjacking. Right out of the bail hearing, just go jack a car. That's Canada today. So there's no audio on this. You can see the guy comes out, gets in his car, and this guy's waiting, and there he is. He just gets right in there. Yeah. He just kicks him out or whatever, I don't know. And yeah, so I think this is the cops that just come in and stop him. And well, you're about to see here. He's revving the car. He can't leave. He decides to back it up and rip the door off almost. Yeah. This is Trudeau's Canada right here. This is the kind of people Trudeau brought in. Send these thieves back or keep them in jail for 10 years minimum. Yeah, put them in a factory where they got to work. They got to work their crime off. If they stole an $80,000 car, then get them to work in a prison factory where they got to make $80,000 worth of widgets, whatever, until they pay that off. And then they can pay off an additional to give back to society for their sins against our country. Make it double it, $160,000 of repayment. If that takes them 35 years, that's tough luck. That's what they got to do. We got a short clip here of a building on fire in Vancouver, and there's a crane on top, and the crane falls down.
Oh my God!
Jumping over to my group, let's see what memes we got today.
Never let a stranger tell us how to act. We would never let a stranger tell us how to dress. We would never let a stranger tell us how to live our lives at all, for that matter. But yet every day, strangers are telling us how and what to think, and some of us are listening. And the worst part is that these strangers are often telling you how and what to think through deception and misrepresentation. Now you're probably wondering, who are these strangers? What are you talking about? The strangers I'm talking about are politicians and political talking heads. You don't know them and they don't know you. So it begs the question, how are strangers getting away with telling us how and what to think? It comes down to critical thinking, a lost art. And I'll be the one to say it. It's the ones that can't critically think that often fall on the extreme ends of the political spectrum. And this is because the people who can't critically think don't understand that there's a logical argument on the other side. One of the most valuable lessons I learned in law school was that each side has a justifiable logical argument. But if you can't see the other side's argument, then you automatically assume you are 100% correct 100% of the time, and the other side is just completely whack. Modern day politics, and that includes the media, has sort of allowed critical thinking to die off. And if we want to be the United States of America and actually come together rather than drift apart, we need to get better at critical thinking. You know, it's funny, we would never...
They think there's food in our food. These posts were removed because someone took offense. 20 persons or 1,500 kg. Alternative, 1 Volkswagen Passat, 1 Hippo, 6 Grizzly Bears, 65 luggage bags, 454 Chihuahuas, 3,061 seagulls, 12,712 bananas, or 30,000 Snickers bars, or 1 Liberal because they're so full of crap. This is funny. This looks like a real sign. That's where I wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought about that. We've got the WEF wanting to put a carbon tax on water, potentially air, soil. These guys, these self-elected elitist masterminds, they need to be dismantled and chucked out the door. Nobody respects these people. They think they have elected themselves as the so-called leaders of the world, but nobody's following them. They had a little bit of a stranglehold on a few governments here, and things are falling apart for them. Let me know what you guys think down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up. Keep delivering you the honest truth here, what the mainstream media won't do. We'll keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys in the next one.